Hello. Today is the sixth lesson in a series of health and wellness principles. And today we're going to be talking about nutrition again, but this time we're going to go into some places that probably won't make you so comfortable because the title of this is We're Being Starved with Full Stomachs. Well, the foods that we're eating is not feeding us at our cellular level. So unbeknownst to us, we're being starved, and this is not being done accidentally, it's being done purposefully. So we talked about oxygen and water, but we left out the most important thing that I should have really made as the next subject, which is mitochondria. So at the end of this short lesson, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about mitochondria. When I was president of the Alive Tech, the medical corporation, there's some things I learned. Number one, the Food and Drug Administration has no authority over food. Natural food or God-created food cannot be regulated. The other food I call Frankenstein-style altered food or chemicals is Frankenfood, and it can be regulated. There's a term that I learned when I was president of the medical corporation. The term is non-specific risk. It's a very important term for anybody that's dealing with the Food and Drug Administration. The Food and Drug Administration has no authority over substances that they cannot prove harm people. What happens when Big Pharma takes over the government, your media, and education? Well, when did drugs become the largest advertisers on television? There was 20 years of succession between Bush, Clinton, and Bush. You know, if you want to hide the truth, you hide it in plain sight. What is a poppy? A poppy is a plant that produces heroin. Poppy, P-O-P-P-Y. What was Senior Bush's nickname? Poppy Bush. I'm not going to go there on this video, but I have some interesting information for you. Because ever since that season, that 20-year season between the Bush, Clinton, and Bush, life expectancy in the United States dropped by 3 years. Well, brainwashing became normal. Fiction became normal. Truth became radical. The masses were no longer seeking truth. Average became the enemy of good, better, and best. Whatever happened to excellent? Let me ask you a question. Why would a snake oil salesman ask his or her customer to ask a medical doctor for snake oil? They must have been in cahoots. Well, I'm not knocking medical doctors because I don't blame them for being undereducated. Opioid addiction began in the doctor's offices under the Food and Drug Administration approval. In order for the FDA to approve a drug, it must have a kill rate. So there aren't any pharmaceutical products that are regulated that don't have a kill rate. That means a certain number of people that they test have to die. But food does not require any approvals. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. Much of what we've been taught have been lies at best or incomplete truths. Much of what we've taught to be true is just the way things are actually neither. You know, there is no such thing as health insurance. And this is going to broadside some folks. How does health insurance keep you healthy? You know, it really should be called sickness and disease insurance, but what it really was modified by advertising agencies to make it applicable, make it enticing. I need health insurance. What does health insurance do? Does it keep you healthy? Absolutely not. It's for sickness and disease. The answer is the question that doesn't help you at all. Did you know that back in the Obamacare, that Muslims were not required to buy Obamacare? Do you know why? Because their religion considers insurance gambling. Well, do you know Native Americans are not required to license medicine men? Because medicine men are part of their Native American religion. See, there's so much that we don't know that we should know. Now, I just learned that there's this stuff called chitin, chitin, and it's the exoskeletons of insects. And that's put in most of our foods today. But nobody ever told us that. And because insects are natural, they aren't regulated, so chitins can be put in our food without it being on the label. They're not required to label chitins in our food. So I want to talk to you about three things today, three functions of food. The first function is natural or nutritional absorption. When we talk about nutritional absorption, we're referring to assimilation of substances like vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, amino acids into the bloodstream and cells or across the tissues and organs. Overall, absorption in humans is complex and involves many types of enzymes, saliva, and bile. We talked about saliva in the previous video, because saliva is the beginning of our digestion. There's enzymes in saliva mixed with our food. We talked about mastication, because if you're not chewing your food, and listen, I needed this because I needed to wake up myself, because I'm just like a wolf. I just grab it and swallow it. Well, now I'm beginning to masticate my food, because by teaching this, it has become obvious to me that I'm guilty of not being a masticator. How about bile? What is bile? Well, bile is a fluid that's secreted by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and it helps break down our foods. Well, when I was younger, I had a partner in a business, and I had invested a lot in the business, but he was the controlling partner, and one day he just kicked me out. And I got the worst pains in my abdomen. And in the old days, when Grandpa and Grandma were alive, they called that biliousness. It's when your bile and your gets so acid from the stress or the anguish that you get these huge pains in your abdomen. Well, that's bile, and bile is an important part of our digestive system. Number two is satisfying psychological need. There's a psychology to nutrition, and there's a certain amount of pleasure to feeding ourselves. Well, that's an important part of digestion. Maslow's hierarchy on needs is a theory of motivation, which states that 5 categories of human needs dictate an individual's behavior. Those needs are psychological needs, safety needs, love, belonging needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. Those are the 5 needs that we need to be happy in our humanity, and they're an important part of digestion. Esteem, respect, or admiration typically of a person. We need to be recognized. We have that need. How about self-actualization? The realization or fulfillment of one's talents or potentialities, especially considered as a drive or need present in everyone. Well, we need to be recognized. That's part of our makeup. It's one of the 5 things that we need. One of the most broadly accepted definitions comes from Maslow. He describes self-actualization as a process of becoming everything you are capable of being. You remember the advertised for the Army, join the Army, be all that you can be? We all need to be everything that we can possibly be. If we're not, we're not happy. And happiness is an important part of life. And the third nutritional requirement is physical adjustment. In psychology, adjustment is that condition of a person who is able to adapt to changes in their physical, occupational, and social environment. In other words, adjustment refers to the behavioral process of balancing conflicting needs or needs challenged by obstacles in the environment. Well, I better be careful what I'm saying, we are being starved intentionally. And I'm going to go into that a little bit. There's a scripture that I really like, Galatians 6:2. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Well, sickness and disease are burdens. Sickness and disease are works of the enemy. Yeshua, Jesus, came to destroy the works of the devil. Well, first of all, the devil was not a fallen angel. He was a fallen cherub. Cherubs were above the angels. And he was in charge of worship in heaven. And a third of the angels in heaven were worship angels. So when he was kicked out of heaven, they followed him because he was high ranking. But he hates humans. And he wants this planet for himself. So who do you think is behind all this getting rid of human stuff? Who do you think was behind COVID? Who do you think was behind AIDS? Who's behind all of these diseases? It's none other than the one that was kicked out of heaven. Well, each one of us has a free will to make choices, and our choices determine our destiny. And 3 John 1 and 2, John said, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may be prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." Well, I want God's kind of health for you, both spiritual and physical. We started out these lessons in the health and wellness principles with deep breathing, deep inhalations. Next, we talked about hydration or water and the importance of water in our body, but I neglected, I should have really done a full lesson on mitochondria. You can't survive without mitochondria because it's the power of the human cell. Mitochondria are membrane-bound cell, and I can't pronounce this one, organelles, that generate most of the chemical energy needed in the power of the cell's biochemical reactions. Adenosine triphosphate, which is ATP, is the power of the cell, and that power is created by the mitochondria. Now, what harms mitochondria? Well, stress, for one thing. The things we eat, foods that we eat. I think I shared in our first teaching that many years ago I was a personal trainer. And in order to be a personal trainer, my first wife, who's deceased now, she insisted that I go back to college and I get some credits. I needed physiology, I needed kinesiology, I needed anatomy. So I went back to American University and I took those courses and became one of the first personal trainers of the International Dance Exercise Association. And we learned all about ATP, but we didn't learn all about mitochondria. Well, mitochondria are what powers ATP. And without mitochondria, we couldn't exist because that's the strength, that's the energy of our cell. When we eat food, if we don't assimilate it, we don't break it down to the place that it can go into the individual cells and feed the cells, then we're not healthy. Well, today, when you go buy a prepared food, how do you know what's in it? You go or buy a processed food in a can, or you buy a processed food in a box and you add it to water, or you mix up a processed mix. How do you know what's in it? Well, the truth is you don't know what's in it. And now that I know, and you know, that chitins are in almost all the processed food that we get. Why? Why? Because they don't have to, they can use it. It's kind of like a filler, but it doesn't have to be on the box. It doesn't have to be in the ingredients because it's natural. Well, natural things don't have to show up in an ingredient because they're natural. So we are being fed things that are breaking us down and wearing us out and not allowing us to regenerate. So here's what happened. I was introduced to a product that enhances mitochondria. And I wouldn't have purchased it because I didn't think I needed it. But a friend of mine who, obviously he loves me because he gifted me a bottle of this stuff. And I started taking it, and all of a sudden, my mind got clearer and clearer and clearer. I could remember things that I couldn't remember 10 years ago. 15 years ago. My mental recall is like it was 20 years ago after just a month. Well, that got me studying mitochondria, which I wish I'd studied years ago, because I didn't have any idea the value of mitochondria. So what cells use the most, have the most mitochondria? Well, the cells that use the most energy. So what's the cell, what's the organ that uses the most energy in the body? The heart. Okay. Well, the heart has about 5,000 mitochondria per cell. So what other cells use lots of mitochondria? Well, the eyes, the ears, the brain, the liver. Well, when I started eating this product, the first thing that happened was my hearing increased, because the smallest muscle in the body is in the inner ear, and it was affected pretty quickly. But then I started remembering things. Now, 2 days ago, a friend of mine called me. He got some of this product that I'm talking about that increases mitochondria. He's a professional singer. He recorded in Nashville. And all of a sudden, after 3 weeks on this product, he can remember his lyrics. Before, he had to have paper in front of him all the time. All of a sudden, he said, I couldn't believe it. I recall my lyrics. Well, how many people today could use a little bit of help with their memory? Now, listen, hey, look, I'll be 79 on my next birthday. I know everybody that I know over 60, probably over 50, needs a lot of help with their memory. Well, that's why we're talking about mitochondria. Keep in mind that the number of mitochondria in each cell reflects its energy requirement, and the more energy an organ needs, the more mitochondria is in its cell. Let's see. Well, I'm not going to go into a lot more detail, but I have lots of information on mitochondria because I've been developing it for my own curiosity. I wanted to know all about mitochondria. So if you would like the script from this video, you're more than welcome to get it. And there's things in here that I can't say on the internet. There's some information here that's pertinent, that's invaluable. You need to understand what's being done to us. There is an advantage for getting rid of us. How much would the government save if all the people that required help were eliminated? What happened when COVID came along? How many elderly people were eliminated? How many people with pre-existing physical conditions were eliminated? Well, how much do you think the government's saving by those people not being here any longer? I mean, look at me. I get a Social Security check. Now, I earned it because I put lots of money into Social Security. However, if they could eliminate me tomorrow, they'd save a couple $1,000s a month if they could just eliminate me. So I'm sharing that with you because I want you to know something. The God of this world hates you. He wants you dead. He uses people. We don't fight against people. We fight against powers and principalities in high places. Where are the high places? Well, you figure that one out for yourself. So if you want a script of this, I would be more than glad to email you the script. So all you got to do is underneath this video, I've got my email there. If you need any help at all, if you have any questions, I love questions because questions make me learn. So what you're learning from me now, you're more than welcome to share, and it can become yours. The knowledge that we have belongs to us. So feel free to share it with as many people as you like. Get healthy. Get healthy. Increase your energy level. Get healthy. We need you in the battle. We need you in this war that we're in for the dark side. So God bless you.